Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is a trainer education post, and we're going to be talking about do it first. Okay? So this doesn't mean you have to be the first person or you have to win everything. So what we're actually talking about in regards to is how you can become a better trainer. And one of the things that I commonly express with new trainers that I work with and interns that we host from the local university is whenever they're kind of figuring out what to do with their clients or how to write a client's programming and stuff, is I always tell them is make sure you do it first. And what we mean by that is before you can teach something, you have to do that something. So if I want to teach a client, say, a new exercise, then I have to make sure I do it first. So that way I understand the nuances of how kind of that movement works, what maybe exercise, like what muscles I should start to feel, maybe other kind of like unrelated things that you maybe wouldn't have known. So for example, there's one exercise that I teach people for rehab that is you lay on your side, and it's a contract relax drill for internal external rotation. So you lay on your side. It's something I learned from a guy named John Quint, who is the kind of physical therapist for Westside Barbell. So I went to a seminar he hosted, and he showed us a whole bunch of really cool stuff. So to kind of get rid of movement pains and kind of faulty patterns and whatnot. So he was showing us this drill, and I kind of laid down, did it, thought it was really cool, and had fun with it. But I noticed as I was doing it, I was like, my neck kind of like hurts a little bit. Because you have to lay on your side, and your head is in the air kind of the whole time you're doing it. And I didn't think much of it. It just kind of, like I noticed it, but then I just kind of moved on, did the drill, and I was excited to learn it. So then when I first taught it to, my mom was actually the first person I taught it to, because I was excited that I wanted to share it. So I showed her, and as soon as she laid down, we started doing a couple of the drills, and like within 30 seconds, she goes, oh, my neck is kind of hurting. And I was like, hey, I felt that too. I said, why don't we prop your head up on something? So we got some pads and put her head on it. And then I showed a second person, and they expressed the same thing. So here it was interesting that it was neat that I had felt that drill in terms of how I would be able to help somebody with it, but then also understanding that there might be potential for them to be uncomfortable in that position, and therefore it would negatively impact how the drill would work because their neck is tensed up and they're stressed from that, and they're feeling the pain in their neck, they're not paying attention to the therapy. So that's something where, like, just an offhand example of where you have to be aware of the feelings, complications, and whatnot of an exercise, so that way when you teach it to somebody, if they say, oh, my neck hurts, you don't have to go, oh, crap, I wonder what I'm doing wrong. You'll just know, oh, okay, well, that was just because it's unsupported. We're not doing anything wrong. You just prop it up, here you go. So another story I had is when I used to teach at the local university, one of the classes I taught was kind of a weight training class, and it was a precursor for exercise science majors and other majors too, but it was kind of like introduction to lifting weights, and I taught it in a fashion in which people would learn how to write their own training and nutrition programming. So I made it way more complicated than it really needed to be, but I got great reviews and people loved it, and I got to teach there for 7 years, so they didn't fire me right away. So I actually got to redo the syllabus the very first semester I got there, so I probably seemed like a punk because I wanted to redo what they had already been doing. But part of it was for them to understand better on how to do something themselves. I knew that if they were to teach it to other people, they would have to more solidify their knowledge. So it's one thing to just kind of do it, but it's a whole different world if you have to explain it and get somebody else to do it. So I remember there was one example where the one class, I had them pick an exercise, and they had to teach it to the rest of the class. And each student had to do one exercise, and it was like maybe like a 5-minute presentation. So you're supposed to give the exercise name, like what muscles it worked, demonstrate it, and then give some context to like how many sets and reps should it be done for. Is this a like beginning, middle, or end of the workout type thing? That kind of thing. So give some more context to how to best use it. And I remember this one girl, she wanted to do this exercise. It's supposed to be for your chest. It's called Around the Worlds. And you lay on a flat bench, you have dumbbells in your hands, and you draw like, basically it's like drawing a big circle around your body. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, think of like a snow angel. So if I was laying down in the snow, this is probably a horrible example to give people in South Carolina. But people in South Carolina, there's this white stuff that falls from the sky every now and then in really cold states, like the ones I grew up in. But anyhow, think of a snow angel. You'd lay on your back and you kind of do like a jumping jack motion with your arms and legs. Well, this would be if you laid down on a bench, had dumbbells in your hands, and you're just doing the upper body portion. So, it's an absolutely horrific, horrible exercise idea. But it happened to be the very first exercise under bodybuilding.com's exercise guide for chest. So, this girl figured, well, I'm going to teach a chest exercise. Let me go to this website, pick the first damn thing on there with no regard of whether it's good or not. And I don't think she even practiced the damn thing. She went up there with papers in her hand, which was just a print off right from the website. She literally read off the page instead of looking at anybody. She did the exercise for what looked like the first time in her entire life. She picked a weight that was way too heavy, almost hurt herself, and she kind of looked defeated and looked up at me halfway through the presentation. And I said, well, you put zero effort into this, and it shows. Why don't you go stand with the rest of the people, and I'll teach this exercise. So she got an F. She had to go stand in the back and probably feel like a dunce. But I taught the exercise and then taught them why they should never do it. So it was a really, really bad example on her part to where she was in charge of teaching people a chest exercise. She could have picked any damn exercise under the sun and even had picked one that definitively would have worked, like a dumbbell chest press, done, or a machine chest press. I mean, you can't even get that thing wrong. So she picked whatever the hell was the laziest thing that she could possibly have done, and it went horribly. So that's what we want to avoid as trainers, is when we're like, if we look up on YouTube or something and we see this cool new exercise and it looks like, you know, hey, my clients would probably really love this. It's going to seem unique and maybe it'll make me stand out as a trainer. Well, don't be a dumbass and try to teach something that you've never done and or that isn't effective and or is going to hurt them. Okay, so that's the idea of do it first. Is anybody listening to this podcast, if you're investing the time to find this podcast and now listen to this, you're absolutely of the state of mind that you're going to want to do the best for your clients. So you're already not going to be that lazy person who got an F in class. You're going to probably try things that you legitimately think are great. However, if you don't try them first before you show the client, you won't really know if that's going to cause any joint stress. You won't really know what's the right amount of weight for them to use. So you might accidentally, be really super cautious and hand them 5-pound dumbbells, but that's an absolute freaking waste of time on certain exercises. So, for example, I observed a trainer once. This was at a different gym. I have some benefits to my job in past history to where I got to observe a lot of trainers at other places. And I remember once there was a trainer trying to get their client to do chest flies, and they had them doing sets of 10 with 5-pound dumbbells. And they kept saying, like, do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your chest? Like, oh, chest flies are really good for building the chest. And they were talking up this exercise. And their client there was nothing physically wrong with the client. So I had observed the client and I already knew the client's history. So the client was fine. So there was no need for them to be doing only 5-pound dumbbells. And 5-pound dumbbells for a chest fly isn't going to do shit. That isn't going to tear up any muscle tissue. There's really no straining involved. That client looked like they could have fallen asleep in the middle of the exercise. So that trainer was kind of like lost amongst the details, so they weren't seeing the bigger picture. So they're like, oh yeah, your form looks good. This would be a great way for us to warm up our chest. We're going to really build some tissue. No, you're not. That's 5-pound dumbbells. That's not going to do a damn thing. So you have to make sure that you have the experience. Like if that trainer would have laid down and done flies with 5-pound dumbbells, they would have felt, well, this is pretty damn stupid. I probably need to give them more weight. So I might give them 5-pound dumbbells to do the first set, see how the form feels, make sure they're moving well, talk about bracing their shoulder blades, protecting their shoulder joint, make sure they feel comfortable with it. But then you need to give them some actual weight that would actually have some benefit. And this trainer just had them do 3 sets of 10 with 5-pound dumbbells, and he moved on as if that had done anything for the person. That wasn't even cardio. So it didn't really do anything. So that's the idea of doing it first. Is if you've experienced it first, you'll know those little nuances. You'll better understand everything about that exercise to get better results for your clients. Okay? Now, what if you're in a rush? Okay, so a lot of times trainers will feel rushed. You're kind of, you had a lot to do that day. Maybe you had a session coming up, but you didn't have time to think ahead of time, and you're just going to kind of shove a client through a workout. Well, don't do things you don't know. Only teach things that you know at that point. You might have to totally abandon your plan for that day and like trash the ideas that you had that were new, but if you've never experienced them yet, don't try to teach them. If you bullshit your clients, they will know. If they don't tell you, that doesn't mean they don't know you're bullshitting them. It probably means they're just testing you to see if you're going to continue to bullshit them. Or they're going to get home later on and say, you know, that trainer, like for example, the person doing the 5-pound flies, they're going to say, you know, that trainer was talking about how that was going to help me grow my chest, but I don't feel anything in my chest. I don't feel sore. I don't feel even fatigued. It didn't even really hurt at all. So I wonder what they were even talking about. So that brings doubt in their mind. And then they're going to have that now, continuing into the next session and the next session. And you're going to create this gap between you and your client. So if your clients don't tell you, or you can't tell right away, but you know you're teaching something that you don't quite know, they are going to know it. They're either going to know it in that moment or they're going to figure it out later. Okay? So only teach what you know. Only teach it if you've done it first. Okay? So book knowledge or reading it off an article or watching a YouTube video is way the hell different than picking up the weights yourself and doing it yourself. So I train people for a wide variety of areas. So like I've trained bikini athletes before, and I am a control freak, type A personality, so I want to control as many aspects as possible. So I've helped people get like pro cards in aesthetic sports, and like figure fitness, figure physique. We've done bikini shows, men's physique, men's bodybuilding, all that. And I actually know how to pose for every category, and I have practiced posing in high heels. Yep, you heard that correctly, and I am admitting that on a podcast. But I have posed in high heels. I've done bikini poses. I know how to do the walk. I know how to do the little shoulder shrug, kick hips back, wink at the judges, all the sassy stuff. So I know all that because the only way I could ever teach it would be to have done it first. So I know all the poses. I know all the positions. I've watched endless hours and hours and hours of videos and then practice myself. So the only way I can ever teach it is if I do it first. So if I want to have the control of teaching that, and to me it's a huge component. So I spend months shaping their body the way I want it. I'm not going to give the control over to somebody else to pose it in the wrong way. So everybody's body has certain positions that highlight their better aspects, that hide the parts that are maybe not as naturally flowing or as big as they need to be or as shaped as they need to be. So it's very important in aesthetic-based sports how you present yourself. So I can help them build the perfect body, but if I don't control their posing, who knows if the other person's going to, like whoever does end up controlling their posing, who knows if they're going to know their best interest. So most posing coaches and camps and whatnot is like a one-time event. You might go maybe twice. So you go twice, you pose in front of this, IFBB pro or judge of some sort with 14 other women or guys. But it's typically women who get kind of taken advantage of in these camps. So you pose in front of one person, there's 14 of you, and you do that, maybe twice before you step on stage and get singled out and judged singly. That's not going to be enough help at all. So I wanted to have a lot of control over that, so I learned all the posing myself. So that's what I'd suggest you guys do, even if it means you have to wear high heels. So I went to another gym and had a trainer who was doing kind of group fitness classes. And they were having a circuit, and in this circuit they had 4 exercises in a row that involved grip. I believe it was 4, it was 3 or 4. And what happened was overwhelmingly most of the people couldn't get through all the exercise. So they got through the first one, the second one, by the third one they were dropping the dumbbells, or they were complaining that they couldn't hold them, or they were like resting them on their shoulder rather than holding them in their hands, and it was a complete shit show because that trainer had not practiced that stuff. They maybe had practiced the individual exercises before, but they never did it fully in the complete circuit, and it showed. It absolutely showed. It was actually kind of embarrassing because that trainer didn't really know how to adjust. So we ended up making it work, but it was not a really good example for that trainer. And we've talked about in the past there's podcast number 82 titled Collateral Damage. And in that podcast, we talk about if you want to train one specific muscle, you have to pay attention to what else is involved. So if I'm doing a back exercise where I'm holding onto a dumbbell, my grip is involved. I need to consider that. And maybe if I'm doing, like say I'm doing a barbell bent over row into dumbbell bent over row into say like renegade rows. All of that is really lower back dependent and core dependent. So most likely the person's lower back is going to be completely fried. And by the third, even the second exercise, that all might go to crap. So you need to understand the collateral damage of the exercises you're making people do. So what else is going to be affected by what I do? So if I'm doing, 3 exercises in a row and they all involve grip, I need to be aware of that and make a modification to one of them. So that way I can alleviate the stress on the grip, get better results for that client. Okay? So I've been helped throughout this process on my own. In one aspect is I've talked about before, I've had a lot of injuries over my years. Back when I was younger and dumb, and I'm still dumb now, but I was dumber back then. So is I would have injuries. And what's neat about that, though, is then I would come across somebody who would have a similar issue, and I'd say, hey, you know what? I actually know how to fix that because I fixed it on myself. So I actually have a joke going with some of my best clients and people who are close to me now that I used to joke that I would have an injury so that way God would help me be able to understand and help other people. So I've had a string of injuries where like I tore the meniscus in my knee, and then a week later I had a client come into the gym, need physical therapy on a torn meniscus. And I was like, hey, you know what? I know how to do that. Or like I would have some other injury, and then all of a sudden a client would come up with that. So I used to jokingly say, like, I'm praying to God now that I don't need to learn any hands-on anymore. So I've learned enough that way. I don't like let's stop learning that way. So, but it has helped a lot. So even just today, I had a young guy come to the gym who had a shoulder injury and had to have surgery on his shoulder, and it was actually related to similar to an injury that I had when I was younger. So I actually popped my shoulders out of place, back out of the shoulder. So I popped them out of place backwards, and had a whole bunch of stuff get torn up, and I went through a lot of mess through that. And that's similar to what had happened to this guy. So it was interesting in the sense that I was able to relate. I was able to know already what exercises would be good, what exercises wouldn't be good, and I already knew kind of where to focus. So unfortunately, sometimes in that case, like if somebody had their shoulder pop out of place and they need to repair the structures of their shoulder, people are going to focus on the wrong exercises. So I told him, for example, is an overhead press actually isn't that important because it really just targets the front and middle delt. And the rest of your bracing and positioning of an overhead press is what actually he would need to work on. So we don't really need a stronger front delt as much as he would need to grow his shoulder blade control and postural control. So he needed to improve infraspinatus, superinfraspinatus, teres major, teres minor, rhomboids, lower traps, all that stuff that controls your shoulder blade. So we went through some drills that helped with shoulder blade positioning. And that might not be something that most people would think of whenever your shoulder goes out of place, like when your upper arm bone pops out of socket. They might think of just targeting kind of the closest-ish muscles to that joint and not pay attention to the bracing and stability aspects of it. So it was kind of interesting in the way to be able to relate to his injury that helped me become a better teacher. Now, you do not have to get injured first. So when I say do it first, I don't mean get injured first. I just mean try this stuff. Get some experience behind you, okay? So it's one thing to have book knowledge, it's one thing to watch a video, it's one thing to read an article, but you got to do it too, okay? And you got to do it before you can teach it. So that's the idea. So when I have interns at the gym or any new trainers I work with, I always have them practice their clients' workouts. And even to some, almost like they're doing the workout weighted, with weights that would be challenging for them as the trainer. And then they'd be able to, correlate or change the weights out for their client. But if they just kind of go through ho-hum weights and practice them really light weighted, they're not going to get all the nuances that they would really need to learn. So I'd make kind of my newbies that I work with, I'd make them practice a lot of it. So they might not have to go through the whole workout, but at least get one working set of the new exercise or something different. And that helps them kind of make corrections. And almost overwhelmingly every single time they present me with a workout, I say, hey, you got to change this, 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 and then go ahead and practice it. and then they practice it and then realize that there were still some more things they got to change. And sometimes I would purposely not tell them ahead of time because I'm evil in the sense to where I don't want my own people to get injured. So I'll make sure that they don't have anything that bad. But if something is kind of like, say, 3 grip exercises in a row, I'll kind of let them try it. And then all of a sudden they come back and go, holy crap, that was horrible, man. And then I'll just start laughing. But it was a really good way for them to learn with hands-on first person account of learning. So it helps those lessons sink in a little bit better than me just going, hey, don't do that. And then they're wondering why, or, yeah, he says it's going to hurt the grip, but it can't be that bad. And then all of a sudden they try and go, oh, crap, that was horrible. So practice what you give your clients. It's a really good way to kind of open up your training as well and just have new fun. It's going to make sure you give your clients good stuff because you don't want to practice stupid things. So overall, it has a big, huge benefit. So it's going to improve your ability to kind of edit and change things on the fly or in the moment. So if you have somebody come in and they're doing it and they're like, oh man, my shoulder's kind of bugging me. And you can say, you know what, when I did that, if I leaned forward too far, that hurt my shoulder. So are they leaning too far forward? Oh, you know what, they kind of are. I wonder if I can get them, to pull back some. And all of a sudden the client's pain goes away. You look like a genius. Everybody's happy. So it helps with that. It also helps with client satisfaction of the workout and feel like they're being taken care of. Because you can, like, when they're doing this and going, oh, this is horrible. You can say, yeah, I did it earlier today and it was absolutely miserable. Like, wait till you get to the second round. And then you kind of relate better to them. So that helps with kind of communication and relationship building. And then also it improves the client's belief in you, that you actually walk the walk, so not only talk the talk. So that's, again, more bonding, more connection. This is how you form more long-term client relationships. So like I've told you guys before, is I have the gym now for 8 years, and I have some clients I've had for 8 years. So they fully know what to do on their own. They just like trying to do all the new variety, learning new things. They like training with me, a little bit of that adherence as well, so they know if I'm standing there, they got to come. So, but it's kind of fun to have people that long because you can get through cool things. You can kind of feel more connected with them, feel like you're making a bigger difference in their life. You kind of go through ups and downs of life a little bit better, and you can have a more deeper impact on their life. So it's kind of a cool reward in that sense. And then also doing things first, knowing firsthand knowledge, it improves kind of the results that you can get with them because you'll know better how to manipulate each exercise to its best ability. So like I said, you won't be that trainer having people do 5-pound dumbbell flies because you're going to know firsthand that that's not very effective. Okay? So you got to do everything first, and that automatically means that you can really only teach what you know. You can only teach what you do. Okay? And that's okay. That's a good thing. Don't feel like that's a limitation. Okay? So when you teach what you know, you're going to have more confidence, and therefore you're going to be able to get better results because of all the things we just went through too. And then the client will have more confidence. They'll see the better results, and then that's going to lead to more business, either long-term sustained business with that client and or referrals. People are going to notice they're getting results. They're going to come and ask what's going on. The client brings people to you. It just kind of overall works better. Okay? So the other aspect of only teaching what you know is that it's impossible to know everything. You literally cannot know everything. So why not just learn a couple things really freaking well and be the best at that stuff? Okay? So one of my examples is I am not built well for Olympic lifting. I never liked it. If I try to do like a front rack position, my elbows have to be pointed straight down to the ground because my forearms are longer than my upper arms. So if I had my upper arms parallel to the floor, the bar would be in the middle of my face. So I am not built for Olympic lifting. Never really liked it, never could do it well. Basically just had to kind of muscle hold a front clean position. So it was a shit show when I ever tried it. So I don't know the technique of Olympic lifting that well. However, I have helped Olympic lifters. How I've helped them is in with what I do know. I know how to dissect exercises, take them apart, break them down into individual movements, individual kind of like hinge patterns, different individual isolation of joints, isolation of muscles, and figure out which part of the movement that they're weakest in, and then figure out how to get them to get stronger just in that specific area. Then when they put it together with their Olympic lifting coach who knows technique, all of a sudden, bam, they hit big PRs. So I've done that a bunch of times. So I am not their Olympic lifting technique coach. So I know the very minimal basics, but I do not know the nuances of Olympic lifting. And I'm okay with that. So I can't know everything, and that's one thing I'm okay with not knowing. But I do know what I do know, and what I do know is how to dissect movements and get somebody stronger in individual aspects of the movement. So that's what I've been helpful at. Okay? So you can do the same. Only teach what you know, and it's okay not to know everything. Pick a few things that you want to know well. Get really freaking good at those. Okay? And then maybe later on you can add another area. Anytime you try to go down the rabbit hole of like one aspect, so say I want to get like to be the best trainer for male bodybuilders. That is an endless rabbit hole. There are always things to learn. Okay? So pick a few things that excite you. Pick a few things that make you money as a trainer. You know, if you're getting a lot of clientele who are 30-year-old, 40-year-old mothers, you know, who kind of neglected their health for 5 or 10 years, now they're trying to regain their health. Okay, that might not be the most exciting area for you, but shit, if that's where all your clients are, if that's where your money is, get freaking excited. So you're a trainer because you want to help people. Those are the people that want your help. They're trusting in you for help. They're asking for you for help. So go find a way to help them. Okay, learn as much as you can. Be the best trainer you can be for them. Okay, so don't try to know everything. Just teach what you know, and make sure anytime you teach something, make sure you do it first. Okay, so that's going to help you be a much better trainer. Like I said, you're going to get better results, better clientele retention. A whole bunch of good things are going to come your way if you humble yourself to only teach what you know and make sure you do things first. Okay, make sure you have firsthand, real-world experience with what you're teaching. Cool. Okay, hopefully that was helpful, gave you some food for thought. And even if you think I'm full of crap, try it this week. So whatever day you listen to this, for the next, say, 5 work days of you as being a trainer, only teach what you've done before, and only teach what you feel very confident with teaching. The things that kind of excited you, the things that you like the most. And you'll be amazed at how much you're going to like your job better. You'll be more enthusiastic. Your clients will pick up on that, and they'll try a little harder. Everything is going to go a little bit better for you. Okay? So give it a try, even for a week if you don't believe me. See if you can get some positive results at it, and hey, maybe it'll turn out to be a good thing, and maybe you'll keep it. Okay? Cool. So hopefully this helped. So if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. So the more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we would love to hear from you. So the podcast is for you, so we'll know what you want to learn about. And you can reach us at our email at brutaliron@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening.